All right, hour number 2, where my Pope is lying in state after stopping by the woods. First time for everything.
I've never been to Vatican City. My wife has. I'll have to ask her if there are woods around there.
So he just lays out there for 3 days, is what I read.
Yes.
Okay, and then they
Very ceremonial.
Yes, and then they move him to. I've seen the past tombs for the Pope. Very, very nice. Very nice setup. It's very nice. It's very nice.
I mean, that's some advantages of being a pope in the post life.
Yeah, it's like a condo in Sandestin Beach. Yes.
It's very
okay.
I didn't. That's your word. That's not mine. I just said it's very nice.
It's a beautiful place, though.
Yeah. How about that portal being closed?
How about it? Are there more? Are there more people?
How about that Rhule? He spoke yesterday.
Are there
about
more
ball.
people who are out of eligibility who are entering the portal?
Perry Ellis, Jimmy.
He's still got a couple years somewhere in there. He's 64 years old now, so
we're
St. Thomas from Millard North entered the portal last night.
Not going,
and
to
he's
St.
out of
Thomas,
eligibility.
Who were those two guards? They were brothers on Duke. One of them, they both entered the
Jack
draft.
Givens?
No, they both. One of them got drafted by Charlotte. I forget. They were in college forever.
Kentucky, the Harrisons.
Yes, Kentucky. Sorry,
they
wrong blue blood.
Yes, they were.
Yes, they were in forever.
Well,
I always remember those guys.
Hey,
Kentucky pays well.
I've always said this. Why would you hustle your way through college? You know what? Get in there and enjoy it. Like these people that say, I'm going to graduate in 3.5 years.
Oh, thank you.
See, I don't get that. I don't get that.
You know what?
You got the rest of your life to be
Why
old.
not stay there for 7 years?
Yes.
I mean, you get to experience a little bit of everything. Why rush your way through college? Now, sometimes if you stay that long, you have letters after your name. Sometimes you end up with a degree or multiple degrees.
But lots of memories.
Or lots of credits.
Yeah, lots of credits. Which, by the way, get lost in translation because you keep transferring from school to school. Some of these guys have been in school for 7 years and they don't have enough credits to graduate because they've been to 4 different places.
Big day in Omaha today. Coming up at 3:30. That's an odd time to hold a press conference.
Yeah. Be a beautiful day, though.
They will announce the Memorial Park concert lineup.
Yes.
Set for Friday, June 27th, down the street. Prepare your blankets and get there early to get your spot. Last year...
Could it be Metallica?
Well, okay, so the last two have been Melissa Etheridge and Herman's Hermits. And then last year was Roger Daltrey. So following along that, just kind of go with that genre.
Okay.
That's probably who will be announced as the Memorial Park concert lineup. But I just got a little memo in my inbox, the Equitable Bank inbox, that told me that is happening.
Is it a one-day?
It's a one-night, Friday night, fireworks.
Awesome.
Take a blanket,
I'm
you
reading
sit
it
out
right
there,
now.
you enjoy it.
It's Omaha's version of the Silver Slugger Woodstock over at Memorial Park.
I was wondering if it was
I'm
like a
with you now.
multi-day, like Ravinia type deal.
No,
event.
just it's a one-time thing. Get in, get out.
Lawrence Welk it is.
Okay. Can't wait. I'll go.
So I got to go to the Husker football account here. Let me bring this up on the old X.
I'm with you. I'm also on the page.
I'm looking for. Well, we never had a chasing 3 after the bowl game because the person that was in charge of chasing 3 went to Central Florida.
Multiple people went multiple places.
It's warm there.
Scott Frost did take quite an interesting group of people that worked at Nebraska to Orlando.
He did.
Yeah, a lot of behind the scenes people.
A lot of them.
Okay, so
and like I don't know for sure, but I think there were even people who were other places who came back around. But yeah, it was an interesting group.
Including assistant coaches. So I'm scrolling through here on videos since spring football has started. And it'll culminate with the Husker games. Let's see here. What do you think is the most watched video that Nebraska football has put out on their Twitter account this spring?
Is it the one from the very first scrimmage where it was like a 48-second type video where there was just a lot of different cuts in it? Where you couldn't get a whole lot unless you were like, if you were like spamming the button, pausing it?
To that, no.
Okay.
So the two most watched videos put out on the Nebraska football account, and you're gonna vibe with where I'm going with
Okay,
this.
cool.
Have been the Harper Murray Matt Rhule TikTok and Jacob Bauer and the scholarship announcement the other day.
Yes.
Not video from a practice, not pictures from a practice.
Wholesome content.
Just all part of the plan in spring to just get in and get out and keep it as low key as possible.
Everyone's healthy.
Do work and not feed into, wow, they're going to hang another offseason banner. I said this last week.
Yeah.
Rhule yesterday, he tried to balance of, spring important, and then let's get through Saturday and then let's move on to the offseason. I contend, and I will stick with this, that it will make us better analysts and fans because of a quiet spring. Because you will be forced to talk to people,
dig deep,
ask questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Not group think, but think on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And I stick with this, that when August rolls around, and I imagine they will bring back the open practice.
Yeah.
They will do something like that. And then it'll really ramp up in August because it's football season and you'll have more daily stuff.
Yeah.
And all they're doing is practicing, and they're going to be more on a regular schedule. But I think it gives you more intrigue because you think you know what you got, but you don't know what you got. And they will go through an offseason where there is no distinguished starters on the defensive line that you know for sure, and a surefire, I know this is my starting five on the offensive line. I think it's actually been a really good spring. I think this has been, for where Nebraska football is going into year number 3, I think it has been an ideal spring.
And this isn't just like Nebraska only, these are other teams that are looking to make a jump next year. What is the benefit of having a loud spring? Like what really is the benefit of having everybody talk about you, having everybody, be really excited about players, having a ton of people buy into potential based upon what you said at the podium, right? I feel like with how there is so much football and teaching and learning and coaching to be done from now until the rest of it, to the beginning of the season, that what is the benefit of everybody screaming and yelling, oh my God, did you hear about what they said about this guy? Did you hear about what you said about this guy? What is the benefit of having those high expectations for a team that has a lot of players that have not produced? Okay. It's a team that now it has a lot of potential and it has a lot of talent, but there are a plethora of players on this team that are going to be very important next year that have not produced at the level of some of the guys who've left. So what's the benefit?
Intrigue. Well, I think it's so
of having a loud spring.
Well, it's if you're a new coach, you would like a loud spring because there's more attention.
Yeah.
Now, granted, again, if there's a quarterback battle, it's a loud spring.
Sure.
Because people are asking, and you got 2-3 guys that are battling for the number one spot, and you don't know who it's going to be. And that's usually when you get some of the biggest crowds when they used to have a normal spring game, is when there is a quarterback battle. People will come to see the quarterbacks. This year, you don't have a quarterback battle. That's pretty clear.
Yeah.
There's definitely a gap between 1 and 2, and you feel real good about number 1. I think it's not only a Nebraska thing, and I think it's done by design.
Mm-hmm.
Not there's no videos. I would even be surprised if we don't see like a chasing 3 type theme from videos as we go into the season. None of that kind of stuff. Not all business. We'll give you a little bit of a tease, but we're not going to bluster. Okay, we're not going to spend this time blustering. But I think it's also, if you look across college football, as most teams this weekend are wrapping up their spring.
Yeah,
the sport has been sucked in the spring by the attention to the portal, what could happen, and then everything else that is going on around college football, the NIL, all of that stuff. Where that's an easier thing to talk about than talking about your spring football, because you're always talking about the future. Well, and so I think it's a Nebraska thing, and I think it's all an all-encompassing college football thing. If you look around the country and how spring football has been covered so far.
Well, I've noticed it with Matt Rhule, where when talking about the team specifically and the players specifically, they're very quick answers. They're very non-assuming. Oh, he looks great. Oh, he's doing well. Oh, I'm really proud of him. Oh, he's worked hard. This and that. But when you ask him about the macro college football questions, he gets way more passionate about it and way more detailed about it. And I think that's what he believes. I'm not questioning that. I think that, because what I'm about to say next might make you think that, but like, it is a little stalling for time or wasting time a little bit when he spends a lot of time. Like, I feel like sometimes he might be going very heavily deep into the macro college football issues because he wants to focus on that and not necessarily what's going on with his team. But I think the thoughts that he has about those macro college football issues are true. That's what he truly believes. That's what he's been thinking about. But I do think in part he's been spending a lot of time talking about the 105, talking about the walk-ons, talking about the transfer portal, talking about tampering, because he wants to spend time on that and not hyping up and getting everybody excited about a team that we really don't know. Like, we really don't know what this team is going to be like.
Hey.
Like, I'm guessing. Like, I move my idea of what this team can be from both sides of the ball kind of moves with the wind, if I'm being honest with you, because there's just a lot of question marks, a lot of talent, but a lot of question marks.
He said something yesterday when he was talking about Fedoni that just backs up the point I made last week, that he's very cognizant of things that are said about his program. And I think he's ticked off about the off-season, hanging of their off-season banner. So that's the approach. I mean, they were going to be all business anyhow, and they were going to limit.
It was
they've not only limited like media stuff. Now they've done regular media conferences, but in terms of putting eyeballs, they've even kind of limited recruiting visits. So they've done work. They've just that's what they're doing here in the spring. But he pays attention to what is said about him. And then it backed up my point yesterday when he was talking about Fedoni and the amount of phone calls he's gotten. And then he said, I know there's some stuff on social media that is some vitriol.
Yeah.
He listens to that stuff. And so that's how I think he formed. We're just going to go about our business in the spring. We're going to do work. We got to do some teaching. We've got new coaches. We've got new players. We don't need outside distractions. We don't need recruits here, because the big thing that I think he'd like to get to is when they bring recruits in and they see the way they practice, that they're like, oh, I like how that. Daron Jones from Omaha North, one of the things he liked about Iowa, and he's got Nebraska in his Final Five, the Omaha North defensive back, whose brother Donovan is at Nebraska, is he went to an Iowa practice. Damon even told me this when Lob was being recruited by Iowa.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive how Iowa practices, and that resonates with a football player and recruit, because you can see things that us in the media or a normal person doesn't see that they're looking for.
Yeah.
And it's not like they practice bad this spring, but they're doing a lot of teaching because they have a lot of new faces and they have a lot of new coaches.
Yeah.
And so, maybe things maybe sometimes would look disjointed, but they actually work for Nebraska. So I think this has all been a plan, and I think it ramps up the intrigue to a Thursday night in Arrowhead, because there is the great unknown. I mean, could you rattle off more than 10 knowns on the 2025 team that you could say today on April 23rd? All right, I know this. I mean, you know who the quarterback is.
Yeah.
You know who the running back is.
Yeah. I don't really know for sure what the offensive line is. I have an idea of what the wide receivers are going to be, but we don't really know if we assume these guys are going to be top dudes, right? We assume Dane Key is going to be a number one, but he hasn't done an 1,000-yard receiving season right at Kentucky. He still has steps to take. I have no idea with the D-line. I have no, and not even just interior. I have no idea with the edge as well. I think there is some mystery with the linebackers. I think the three things you have a really good idea about is the quarterback, the running back, and the fact that you have a lot of familiar faces in the secondary. At the same time, you're going to have some new faces with Donovan Jones and Caleb Benning as well. So there's a ton of that. But
another known would be the special teams will be so much better.
Yes.
Not just a little bit; they will be so much better.
But
personnel and coach.
Here's a funny thing: you talk about the Fedoni comment, right? Vitriol. It wasn't an emphasized word. It kind of I don't want to say it slipped out, but it definitely was something that he moved past. And it's funny for a coach who says that he deletes his Twitter during the season, and for a coach who tells his guys, hey, get off of social media, don't pay attention to the noise, don't pay attention to the hype. He references what is said quite often. Like, it's not every presser he's saying something, but every one or three, once every 3 pressers or once every 4 pressers, there's a little comment about, oh, the only way you would have known that is if you went on Twitter. The only way you would have known that is if you've been paying attention to the noise. So it's an interesting contrast, the fact that that's his message, yet and we know, monitoring these things, that he is monitoring them. But you got to hope that he practices what he preaches and it doesn't affect.
Well, he's done something very interesting in year number 3. And when he does say he likes this team, that is true. I mean, I think he likes the makeup of this team, that he doesn't have to be as heavy-handed. And they've kind of any things that ailed him last year, they believe that they fixed in the offseason. But he is doing a couple of things. He is betting on himself when it comes to in-state recruiting and comments that he made.
Yes.
He's also betting on himself that when he says stuff about this team, that unlike last year in Indianapolis, this year it'll come to fruition. So he's taken out a loan on himself on things that he has said. And I think he's also said it for guys that it's go time. It's year number 3. If you've been in the program for 3 years, you've been in the program for 1 year, just arrived. I'm up here saying this because this is what I believe and this is what I've told you. Now let's see how we get it done. That's why I keep in my head, I can't get out. The opener against Cincinnati is very tricky to me because it will tell you a lot about, has Nebraska changed? And you could say, it's Cincinnati. Nebraska's by kickoff's going to be a touchdown favorite. How many times has Nebraska lost games like that?
Northwestern,
where there's a buildup and you're like,
Illinois.
There's going to be no doubt Nebraska will win that football game.
Yeah.
How many times have they lost games like that recently?
They lost
them a lot.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't take the opener against Cincinnati for granted, but I also think it's a really good opener because if you're trying to tell me that you've changed, those kind of games where you're a favorite, where everybody's talking about you and you feel good about your team, you go and win the football game.
Yeah. And you're on a big stage and you're on national television and you're the biggest game on Thursday that a lot of people are going to be watching against a team that isn't necessarily great, but Cincinnati isn't a program that's just going to lay down and roll
maybe
over.
Now they'll get ticked off at Rhule's comments about the Big 12 and they'll carry the banner of the Big 12. I mean, it's another part of, those are the kind of games that Nebraska loses. A head coach says something and the other side takes it, whether it's out of context or not, they take it and run with it. And then that gets thrown back in your face. You lose those games. We went through an era of Scott Frost where Nebraska lost plenty of those games. And that was another element to, they lost. And then that comes back in your face.
Your betting on himself comment. I don't think that that's just a spring deal. I think this was happening and that has been happening before spring because you don't go on a Josh Pate interview and talk about Nebraska and the national, landscape and everything like that if you don't think that you're going to be there for a very long time and you don't think that you're going to win. You don't go on McAfee.
Don't you think blustering right now, because he's great for Nebraska and the brand because he enjoys being here, which goes a long way. Not a lot of head coaches recently, you could tell that they loved being at Nebraska, and being the head coach in Nebraska, and Rhule clearly is that. Now, don't you think by blustering and some bravado, you can buy yourself some extra time?
I think the $56 million buyout has.
I don't want to. I mean, you got to win.
Yeah. Period. End of story. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know if it's about buying time or anything like that. I don't think that that's on his mind. Can I buy time?
No, I don't think he's doing that intentionally.
Sure.
But if you bluster and people are like, "Yeah, go get him." You know what? Hey, screw you, Iowa State. Do you know that the last 50 games, Nebraska's 43-6-1 against you? All right, that gets people fired up, and that buys you a little time in some people's eyes. I don't think that's his intent.
Sure.
But you look at it can buy you.
It could.
And he's different. We take what he says differently than if the previous head coach had said something like that.
I just think he believes in it.
And that's good. He should.
I just think he should.
Absolutely. It's his football program. And I'm glad that he does.
I think he buys his own message. I think he believes what he says. I don't think he says some things and thinks, maybe, I don't know if that's true or not. I think he practices what he preaches. And I think that he truly believes that they are going to do it because, man, it would be crazy if he were to kind of express the things that he's expressed without believing that, hey, we have a program that's going to allow me to be here for years and years and years to come. And you're right. Everything that this guy says and everything that he does and everything that he has shown that he wants to be the head coach at Nebraska. And I think that sometimes in the past, you look at the job and you look at the tradition and you look at the paycheck and you're really excited to be the head coach at Nebraska. And then you get in the actual chair and you feel the pressure and you feel the expectations and you hear the noise. And immediately or very soon after, you sense, oh my God, this is a little bit more. I bit off more than I could chew. I don't sense that. And when I did sense that, it was after the UCLA game. And then what happened? They turned it on and they made good strides.
Well, he's betting on himself too, because this is the year that either you play into the narrative of Nebraska hired a 500 coach, or you play into the narrative that he's the guy that can erase Nebraska's history, that has them lose games like Cincinnati, has them go 7-6, has them win a big game and then drop a game against a Michigan State or Minnesota in the month of October. All right, a little bit later, Brandon Vogel is going to join us. I got a great question about Rhule that I'm going to pose to Brandon.
Okay.
And might elicit a column